Hello, viewers, and welcome back to yet another episode of Conversations with who? With me, Yobosa. So, on today's episode, we're going to be talking to a seasoned educator, right? I got a whole new appreciation for educators during you guys remember like the COVID pandemic, years where we were forced to work from home and school from home. Do you guys see? Maybe you can't see it. Do you see all this gray hair that I have? 90% of the gray hairs manifested during that era. I mean, just trying to homeschool my kids. Right. My goodness, I got a whole new appreciation for them. If we take a step back to really think about it, right? A lot of who we are these days. So for example, I'm a chartered accountant, maybe a doctor and all of that, are really because of educators. That's why we're here, right? And growing up, I remember thinking, every time I liked a subject or I disliked a subject, it was a function of how it was taught, right? So on today's show, we have an esteemed guest. His name is Doctor, the PhD now, So we have Dr. Andree Osagie. He's a lifelong educator. He's currently the area superintendent of elementary and secondary education at Lamar Consolidated Independent School District here in the Greater Houston area. And he's responsible for supporting and supervising a cluster of elementary and secondary campuses in the Lamar CISD area of over 20,000 students in grades from pre-K to 12th grade. We'll be discussing with him his passion for education and what drives him to bring out the best in his students to see them excel. I personally call him the ultimate philanthropist, ultimately. Welcome, Dr. Osagie, to Conversations with Yobosa. Thank you for taking the time out. You're looking good.
Thank you so much, Yobosa. Thanks for having me. It's definitely exciting to be here. And I just look forward to sharing some things and learning some things from you as well.
I look forward to it. I look forward to sharing from you. Educator, I'm here for it, So the good thing about looking this good is maybe they didn't tell you. There's a price to pay. There's a price to pay for looking good. Coming to my own show to look this good. Are you ready?
I don't know if I have what it takes to pay, but I'll try.
It's very simple, and I'm sure you do. So, take us back to the Afro Juju era, right? What is your favorite Afro Juju? And you can pick any era, the 90s, the 2000s. Sing the chorus, and let us just enjoy it. Serenade us.
Afro Juju. Oh my goodness. You know what? Shina Peters was actually Shina Peters was a favorite in the 90s, right? And I would say part of what I really enjoyed about him was it just crossed across all tribes and the whole nation.
The whole
nation just kind of took into him. Shina Peters, Afro Juju, Asiko Walode, Shina Peters, Afro Juju, Wati Walode, Tele,
I'm helping you.
So I remember that, and I think I was still in high school.
Okay.
And I mean, gosh, we just would not listen to anything else. We couldn't have enough of him.
I know. Is he still where is he? I don't hear much of him.
He's old now. I think he's probably
maybe in his
late 60s or early 70s even. Yeah. So I don't think it performs. I don't think it performs much. Yeah. But I remember. That was a legend at that time, and
you could not go to any party without hearing like Shina Peters. There's that one, and then the other one is Esheo. Yeah. You see, it's gonna be fun on this show.
That was it for me.
Shina Peters, Shina Peters, please, if you are watching the show, first of all, hats off.
That's right.
If you are, please go back because we'll meet you. Okay, that was fun. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's go back to the seriousness of the show.
Yeah.
So how did you decide on the path of like education? Did you always want to be an educator? And I guess the minute you said, okay, this is what I'm going to do.
Yes.
Tell us how you decided, okay, how do I go about doing that? What do I need to equip myself with to get there?
Right. So, it's funny because, actually this was not, education was not something that I originally thought was going to be a career path for me.
Okay.
Just like any kid growing up in a Nigerian family or a Nigerian household, your parents wanted you to be either an engineer.
I call it the 5 professions. Should we count engineer,
doctor,
accountant, What's the other one? Is it architecture,
Yes,
lawyer?
lawyer,
And
lawyer.
then what was the other one again?
Uh,
Pharmacist or something. I don't know. Just
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So, my parents, definitely, my mom is in the medical line and
Okay.
my dad is an engineer. So, I had a choice of picking one of the two directions to go.
Right.
And I thought I was going to go into medicine,
Okay.
right? Actually, my undergrad, when I went to University of Houston, my undergrad was in biology, biochemistry,
All right.
double
You
major.
were going down that
Yes,
path.
so I
Yeah.
was going on that path. So my intention was, do pre-med, with a biology major in biochemistry, and then eventually make my way into medical school. But after graduating, I did not gain admission immediately.
Okay.
So I wanted to at least work for a little
Okay.
while I save some money and then eventually make my way
Smart.
into medical school. Um, but even while I was in college at U of H, I just fell in love with just tutoring and teaching,
Okay.
right? Not with the intention of eventually being a teacher,
Right.
but I just kind of enjoyed,
You just took to it.
just
Just
tutoring,
okay.
right? And I remember we had a tutoring center where they would pay, I think at that time it was a little bit over the minimum wage. It was like $5 an hour or something.
Right.
So it was a pretty good college gig for me.
Right.
And, I was assigned a couple of hours a week.
Okay.
So I was tutoring while I was in college. So when I graduated from U of H,
Okay.
I tried to go work in the medical center.
Okay.
And I worked for Baylor College of Medicine
Okay.
doing research.
All right. Okay.
But I was so frustrated being stuck in a lab and, staring at the microscope for,
Hours.
hours and hours a day. So it just wasn't for me. And I remember at that time I had a friend that was already teaching,
Okay.
and he had recommended if I could go into sub.
Okay.
Okay.
So kind of like test it out, right?
Yes,
So
and
let's
just kind
see
of
how.
see.
Okay.
He said, you love to teach. You were a good tutor when you were in high school, and we're always looking for people to sub. You could choose to do it a couple of days a week, and you could choose to do it full time. It's your choice.
Okay.
You don't have to be stuck.
Right.
So anyway, I decided to go into HISD and
Okay.
apply to be a substitute teacher.
Okay.
And they transferred me to, assigned me to Westbury High School.
Okay.
And just going into Westbury High School, just being a sub, I mean, I was 22, 23 years old, and some of the kids there at that time, it was an 11th and 12th grade class. Some of those kids were a little bit just younger than me.
Right.
And
Yeah, because what, 11, 12, you're talking about like
they were
17, 18.
18-year-old,
Yeah.
right. So we just had fun, I taught them what I knew, and I just enjoyed the time, the atmosphere, the time that I spent with them. And I just had a different perspective going to work when I was going to sub than I was when I was
Going to the lab.
going to the lab,
Right.
And I mean, I would come home exhausted because teaching is hard, right? But just I didn't have just that drag of getting up the next day to go to work.
Yeah.
I was excited going the next day to
Okay.
go into sub. So I did that, and then I remember at the end of that semester, it was in the summer, and I was invited back the next fall.
Okay.
And I said, no, I think I'm just going to try this medical school thing again.
Okay.
I tried in the summer, and in the summer I called the school and I said, you know what? I think I would give it one more year.
Okay.
And
I'm sure they're like, oh, yeah, glad to
yeah,
take
and
it.
so
We're like,
they were glad. And they said, oh, you got to go back to U of H and do a alternative certification program.
Okay.
I got into that.
okay,
And then, 26 years later,
still here.
I'm still here, and it just completely changed my trajectory, my career path. And I went, subbed, got my teaching certification, and, became a full-time science teacher. I was at Westbury for 2 years and then moved into George Bush High School when it opened in 2001. Opened there as a science teacher, and I was actually the science department chair.
Okay.
And, spent some time there, and just my career just continued to advance. I moved
And your
from there.
education as well. And you
My-
got,
and
because
my
you're a
education-
patron.
my
Okay.
education as well. So after spending about 3 or 4 years as a classroom teacher, I decided to go back and get my master's.
Okay.
I actually decided I wanted to do a master's in science. So I initially went back for environmental chemistry.
Okay.
And I did that, went back and I got my master's in educational administration because I wanted to be an assistant principal.
Okay.
And
So is that like a requirement? Like you have
Yes,
to.
you have to have a master's to be an assistant
No, but a
principal.
master's in education, or could it be like a master's in pharmacy, for example?
It doesn't have to be, I mean, you could have a master's in accounting, or you could have
Right.
a master's in any other
Mm-hmm.
discipline, but you would still be required to go back and take some advanced courses in education,
Okay.
because you would need that in order for you to be able to sit for the principal or administration certification
Okay.
by the state,
Makes
which is
sense.
required by
Makes
the
sense.
state. So,
Okay.
so if you have your master's in something else,
Mm-hmm.
it would just take you a longer route because of having to go back and take some
I
education,
still go do that anyway,
take
right?
some
Okay.
education courses
Okay.
in order for you to be able to get
Okay.
certified
Okay.
as a school leader,
Okay.
as a campus principal.
Except you have no ambition to become principal, then in
Yeah,
which case it doesn't matter, right?
absolutely.
But
Yes.
obviously, I think
Yeah.
people have that ambition
Yeah,
because,
yes.
yeah.
In most cases, yes.
Okay. So quick question before and thank you for the response. But
Yes.
before I segue to the next question,
Yes.
Ejo,
Yes.
how did your dad take this not becoming a doctor? Because I know it is the bane of parents. Like if the children don't go
know.
that path, it's like, yay, Mogbe, you know?
I know. It was actually a struggle for him. It was a
Okay.
struggle for him, especially when I first graduated, and I had finished my first degree, biology, biochemistry, and I was working in the lab with the intention of still going to
Yeah.
medical school. I think it was still okay.
No, because
with
it's like
that.
you're still in that
Yes,
like
yes.
that field,
Right.
yeah.
And funny enough, it's funny that you asked, because that was actually my very first time going back to Nigeria
Okay.
after leaving home.
Right.
It was my very first time going back, and I remember telling him that I was teaching now. I was working as a sub, and he all
He was
he
like,
kept on
teacher.
saying that
He was like,
was
teacher.
teacher, like. Oh, you're still going
I
back
can.
you're still going back to school. And I said, yes, I'm still going back to school. But anyway, it was really what led me to go back for an advanced degree.
Okay.
I knew that
That's a
that was,
PhD.
yes, my
Okay.
PhD.
All right.
I did my master's, and I
Okay.
knew almost immediately that I had to, go into a doctoral program, because it was going to be my compromise point. That even if I wasn't going to be a medical doctor,
Right.
I was still going to have
Yeah,
a doctor.
PhD,
I was going to have a doctor in front of my name and a PhD behind my name, something. So I think he finally settled with it. And then I also started teaching at the college level.
Okay.
In the evenings I would teach at the college level. So his favorite nickname for me now is Professor.
Okay.
Hey, so I think that was
whatever makes daddy happy.
That's
You
right.
understand?
So
Whatever makes daddy happy.
that was a compromise.
Okay. Well, that's a good compromise. I like that. It's win-win.
Yeah, that's right.
He's happy, you're happy.
Yes.
Life is good.
Yeah.
I just had to go there.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
But viewers, and we all know, and doctor, we know you can attest to this. I can even attest to it, right? Being an educator is not for the faint-hearted.
That's right.
It's not for the faint-hearted, and it's not for the impatient one. So, for example, I'm very impatient. I cannot. You see, in my household, my husband is the one who tutors my children. He's the one who does the homework with them, because I probably just maim someone if I had to. So, in your opinion, what are top 3 attributes a person should have to be an effective educator?
Well, it's funny because that's one of the things that we always look for when we hire teachers, right? You could have the knowledge base, you could know the content, we could say.
Because everyone should. I mean, if you're going in that line, you should know it. I expect you to know it.
Right? You could know the mathematics, you could know, English language, sciences. But that still doesn't make you what you would call a great teacher or a good teacher, an effective teacher in the classroom. I think the very first thing that we always look for is someone that, number one, has passion for working with kids. You have to have that passion. You have to have that love for working with students and working with kids, right? And it's not, we always say that we could teach you, the pedagogy.
Yeah.
We could teach you the strategies. We could teach you, we could even, send you to a professional development to learn the content if you don't know it.
Right.
But we cannot teach you how to love kids and how to enjoy being with kids. So I would say that would be number one. Okay. Right? That would be number one. Number 2 is almost very, very close to it, is knowing how to develop relationships, develop relationship with students from all backgrounds, right? Because you have a class of 30 students, you're going to have probably 30 students that come from 30 different backgrounds, that come with different experiences. And in order for you to be
and when you say backgrounds, everything is cultural.
Cultural background.
Home experiences, just family,
just
just everything, right?
From single parent household to, multiple parent households to just a diverse background.
Right.
So you've got to be able to know how to relate. You've got to be able to know how to connect, and how to work with people from different backgrounds, right? So that would be the second, someone that is flexible enough to know how to just develop relationship, develop rapport with students. You know, we are there is this cliche in education that you know I don't care what you know until I know that you care, right? So it doesn't
Say
matter.
that again.
That's right. I
I
don't know how much, I
I
don't
don't
care
care.
how much you know until you know how much you care,
Wow.
right? So
Okay.
that's a student's thing, right?
Okay.
It's they don't care if you have a master's in physics, right? But they want to know that you care about them before then they want to listen to you and learn the physics from you, right? You said something at the beginning of the show that sometimes the attribute of how much you like or love the course,
Subject
the
or
subject,
yeah.
it's a factor of the relationship that you have with the
Yeah.
teacher,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So again, we don't the students don't care how much you know, they care how much you care about them, and then they want to learn from you. And then I think the third thing also is in our field, everybody thinks that they could be a teacher, right? But it's a profession, right? And there are strategies that come with teaching. There are pedagogy that you have to know, the
Okay.
content that you have to know. So the third thing that I would say I would look for is someone that truly understands pedagogy, someone that understands, the content, someone that understands how to the act of teaching, right? And there is an art and science to teaching. So, those would be the top three that I would be looking for.
Yeah, that's
someone that truly cares about
right.
kids, someone that really knows how to develop relationship, and then someone that, knows how to teach,
Yeah.
right? The pedagogy.
Yeah. Wow. No, I couldn't have said it any better. And it is, I think that's key. I think for me, my top two from the
Yes,
three
that's right.
is really the someone who's passionate about it.
Right.
As with everything, you need to be
Yes.
passionate about what you do, and then the relationship building.
That's
It
right.
is key. It is really key.
Yes.
Right. So, what is the one time and so educate, working in education, as with any other field, it has its ups and downs.
Absolutely.
There's challenges, there's, rewarding moments. So, what is the one time, very quickly, in, 2 minutes or less, what is the one time you faced a challenging situation, right? What did you learn from it? Because every situation we learn from it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
what would you say? What maybe I should say what really shook you to the point where you're like, maybe did it make you question being in this field? Yeah.
I think, we face a lot of different challenges, like you said.
Yeah.
I think just having to go through COVID,
Oh, I
I
was just waiting for you to say that because that.
yeah, I think we talk about it much right now, but even thinking back to it,
Yeah.
I think for us in education, having been responsible for, something that is so vital as educating
Yeah.
kids, especially in early childhood, right? When they are in that formative age.
Yeah.
I think going through that COVID experience and having to make a quick shift, shifting to virtual education or
Yes.
online. You talked about, your gray
Oh my
hair coming
goodness.
from that, parents,
See, I don't know. Oh, we should be zooming.
Yeah.
It's there.
parents weren't ready for it, but quite frankly, we as educators, right, professional educators, we weren't ready for it as well. We weren't ready.
It was something new.
It was
It
something
was just
new.
like, what is this?
Yes, and it happened so quickly, and we had to make a shift very quickly, and we weren't ready for that shift. And so that was a time that was so challenging, and having to prepare to make that switch, and lead in that shift as
Right.
well, right?
Because we parents were still looking to
Yes,
you. We're like,
yes,
for the answers.
everybody
For
was
the
looking
answers,
forward
yeah.
to the answers from the leaders, right? Parents were looking forward to answers. Teachers were looking forward
Right.
to us for the answers. Students were looking forward to us. Everybody was looking, right?
So there was pressure.
So the pressure was there, and there was nothing in the textbook that we had learned.
Like, it's okay.
Yeah,
How
that-
did they
how
do
do
this
we-
in the
how do
past?
we
You know,
do-
yeah.
The last type of experience that a global pandemic was the Spanish flu, from what we understand, which was 100 years from
Like,
that
whenever-
time.
yeah.
Right? And education was
Well, not even
completely different
advanced,
then.
yeah.
So we didn't have anything as a reference, as a point of reference. So we were building the plane as we were flying
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
So it was so different. And you asked what lesson did we learn from that? Is, if anything else, we've got to be prepared, right? It's, things are not not always going to go the way we expect it to, you know. So it's not going to always be linear. So we've got to be prepared to make a shift. It may not be COVID the next time around. It may be something else, you know, God forbid. But we've got to kind of really be prepared to make that shift. So I think that's just the learning is always, you know, is there an alternative to this linear way of thinking, of the way that we've always known to do things? Is there an alternative to it? So
Yeah, I can't. That COVID. If you hadn't said COVID, I was like, really, nothing was. Oh wow, no.
yeah, I don't think nothing passes
It was
past
tough.
COVID.
It was tough.
Yeah,
It was tough.
was.
And on the flip side,
Yes.
right? What is a rewarding moment that you've had in this profession where you're like, it just really validates why you do this?
Wow.
I'm sure there are many.
Yes.
Yeah. Now you have to like pick one.
Yes. Yeah. You know, I will probably think back to my time as a high school principal.
Okay.
I had taken over a campus, or I was assigned a campus that was a very challenging campus.
Okay.
And it so happened that my second day on the job in 2016, my second day as the principal of this high school, there was a report that was published in the newspapers by Student at Risk. It's an organization that actually publishes the rating of schools all through the state.
Okay.
And that school had been labeled an F school. So
this school where you're just your second day on the job.
Okay. This is my second day on the job. And literally I'm getting phone calls from parents because it had just been published in the newspaper that this school was rated an F.
And the bad thing about that is, even though you're just taking the reins,
yes,
right? But now you're on the hot seat, so it's you they're calling.
I'm having
to fill those,
to give answers.
Yes.
And even though I knew going in that there were academic challenges that I had to fix, I think I was actually hired for that reason. I mean, there are people in the field that we call turnaround principals, right? And I would be, I would
deemed one
I would be deemed into one of those, that category of being a turnaround. So I knew, but not as bad.
Well, you expect the suddenness. You thought, okay, there'll be a ramp up, and then
but not expecting that on my second day on the job, I would, I would be having to, answer to the news and coming up with a plan and all of that kind of stuff. So, it was a big challenge. But the rewarding part of it is, after going through the school and working with a team of teachers, because definitely, it wasn't just my plan. It was just working with a team of teachers and specialists in the school district. The very next year, going through that year, the next summer, when the result came out, we had moved from an F school to a B school.
From an F to a B.
From an F to a B.
What is that? That's like 4 levels. Is it 4 levels?
You go from F to D to C to B, right?
4.
And we had moved from an F school to a B school
in a year.
And it was a lot of work. It was just an intense level of intervention, changing the culture of the school, changing the climate, and bringing in a lot of academic intervention to work with the student. But the result was evident at the end of the school year when we took the state assessment.
Right.
We always take a state assessment at the end of every school year around May. So when that result came out, we had moved from an F to a B. So that was, I just remember just in my office, and I was just overwhelmed, just completely overwhelmed. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm crying in my office.
Oh my goodness.
Because it was just so overwhelming.
Yeah.
The advancement that we had made just in 1 year.
Yeah.
So I would say that was a moment of just absolute fulfillment for me.
Validation. This is it.
Work it actually pays off. And the students could make advancements. Students could grow. And especially when you look at students that come from low-income households in impoverished neighborhood, there is always a stigma that comes with that clientele. But we were able to make gains, and it just kind of validates that students have the potential to make academic gains.
Given the right leadership, though.
Absolutely.
Right. Given the right leadership. Right. Oh, wow. No, that is, and I'm sure anyone, and people, as you go through your professions and all that, when there's that moment where you're like, you know what, I'm in the right profession. So as Doctor has just, described to us, I'm even feeling it. I'm like, yep, you're in the right profession, So to wrap things up, thank you for your time. But to wrap things up, do you have any parting words for parents or school age children in this day and age that we're in? Because there's a lot that inundates everyone. And I mean,
Yes.
social media, let's not even talk about that. There's just a lot that's just inundating even the best of students with the best of intentions, just stuff happens.
Yes.
So like what advice, and some parents despair or some students despair.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have or any parting words for parents and students just as we navigate this whole landscape?
Right. So, thank you
Because
for
you
asking
have
that.
you have children,
Oh,
you've
yes,
got
yes,
four.
yes, yes.
Is it-
I have 4
You
kids.
have
Yes,
4 kids,
yes.
yes.
All the way
So
from college level all the way to junior high.
to junior high.
Yes.
So
So, I think, my advice to parents would be just to continue to stay involved.
okay.
Stay involved. Know what your kids are doing. Know what students are doing. Stay in contact with the school. Know how they're doing academically.
Okay.
Know how they are doing in terms of social emotional well-being, right? The social emotional well-being, just making sure that you are involved in their lives. There is just a lot of peer pressure out there,
It's a lot.
just from social media to friends at school and the community and all of that. So just making sure that parents are involved.
Okay.
I know that we all have demanding careers. We work, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and all of that. But our kids are our most valuable asset, right? So making sure that we make time for that, we make time to connect with them, know what they're doing, talk to them, that we develop that relationship to where they could talk to us, that they're free to talk to us.
So there's that relationship that we talk. So even in the when you say the
Absolutely.
attribute that you look for in a
Yes,
teacher,
yes.
but
At
at home
parents,
as well. As
yes, as parents, I mean, we grew up in Africa, so we had a different type of relationship with our
dynamic,
parents,
yeah.
different dynamics with our parents. But of course, that society is different,
Yeah.
right? That society is different. And this society, you don't have that same type of family structure and network to where even if you can't talk to your dad or your mom, you have uncles and aunties and stuff that you could
There's someone
confide in,
close who
that,
can,
that, that,
yes.
that they would guide you in the same direction that your parents would guide you.
Yeah.
That's absent in this society. Plus the pressure that kids get or students get in this society,
Yeah.
it's quadrupled what they get when we were growing up, right? So just staying connected. I think the other part of it is also when you talk about the educational system here, right? A lot of us did not go to grade school here, right? We probably came here to go to college.
Yeah.
But the education system here, especially in grade school, is a little bit different than where we went to school.
How we that right.
Yes. So just making sure that you connect with the school to understand where your kids are. And you advocate that at an early age so that we don't wait until they graduate from high school
and then you're surprised.
And you're surprised, right?
Whoa, what?
I mean, a lot of parents, when I have conversations with them about GPA in high school, they're like, why do we have GPA in high school? Well, it's very important, right? And in high school, if the GPA is not where it's supposed to be, it's not high enough, it can affect
your college,
it affects the college chances. It affects, the scholarship that you get. It just
cascades. It's like,
So just making sure that they stay very connected with the kids and also with the school to understand all of the things the school have to offer and understand the system. Just like coming to this show, I'm always happy to talk to parents and explain, some of the things that are innuendos of our education system in this country that parents may not be familiar with, especially if they did not go to school here, right? So those would be just those 2 things that I would say at least, just to start out, really just staying connected with the school and with the kids.
Doctor has said it all. Guys, viewers, to sum it up, right? I just think, educators, I mean, you can see he is passionate about what he does, right? It's shining through. And the one thing he mentioned that I like is that the one attribute of a good educator, or maybe 2, I like the top 3, the top 2.
That's right.
One is the passion. You need to have the passion for it. And then the second one is you also need to have the abilities to develop relationships. Absolutely. It's all about relationship, building. And he also mentioned it both in what you seek in a teacher, but also us as parents, right? It's like, do you know your kids? Do you know what's going on? Do you know how they're faring in school? Do you know what, I mean, it's just, we need to keep connected, with our kids. But all I just know is that COVID pandemic period, not be beans. It was not beans. It was tough on everybody. And they felt the pressure. In short, you guys felt the utmost pressure because everyone was looking to you.
Absolutely.
For just as I was pulling my hair out, my goodness, this kid, when are you going to go back to school and all that? you guys were feeling the heat,
Absolutely.
right? From parents, from students, from all of that. And we really, truly appreciate you all. I think the following Christmas, you know, where we had to like buy gifts, I went all out and bought. I was like, this is not going to compensate or anything like that, but it's just, you guys do a lot. Thank you. You know, so thank you so much, Doctor, for being here.
You're welcome.
And for sharing your insights.
I appreciate you having me. Definitely was an honor. And, you know, I always look forward to, you know, just sharing the little that I know and learning. You know, this is a calling for us.
Right.
So, whichever way that we could go about ministrating.
Right. The ministry.
So this is our own ministry.
Indeed.
So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So viewers, there you have it. It was an utmost pleasure having Dr. Andree Osagie on the show. And I'm going to be doing, you know, some more of these types of series, you know, going into 2024, where we bring, you know, educators, we bring entrepreneurs, maybe in the education space. You know, I'll just really hear like what makes them tick, what makes them decide to do what they do, right? You know, and make us better for it. Because like I said, without educators, I would not be here as a CPA. My sister won't be here as a doctor. It's just what it is. They are the foundation. They're the bedrock of it. So until the next episode of Conversations with Iyobosa, I say you stay safe. If you've not subscribed, don't let me start with 2024 asking you people to unsubscribe. Go and subscribe to my show. Click, like the link, share the link. This is the goodness of Conversations with Iyobosa. You stay safe and have a super sparkly week now.